Can you hear me? Yeah. Okay then. Last class where we stopped. Last class where we stopped. This is my client application. This is my client application. We are in E2E tab. Okay. E2E tab. You completed the designing as well as you taken the data, and the data in the form of object format. In the form of object. The data is in the form of object. Okay. Now this data you have to give it to whom? This data you have to give it to server. Okay, come to this particular one, you can understand. Now see here, this is our form. You enter some data here. At the time of clicking on the submit button, this data has to store within the database. That is our final requirement. So client side part, what we have to do, design the form, take the data from this particular form, prepare the JSON object and wait. Okay, these three things completed. What are those? Prepare the form. That form preparation is done by any client-side technology, JavaScript, jQuery, Angular, React, Vue, Backbone, Express, whatever it is. Whatever it is. Okay. Now, in our case, we developed this space by using React. So because our site is like a client-side technology, we are going to use like a React. Okay, you prepare this form by using React. You taken the data from the text piece by using React. You prepare the JSON object and you wait. Okay, you waited. Okay, why? Why? Because this data I want to store within the database directly as a client-side developer. I am not able to communicate with the DB, so some middleware is required. Once that guy is ready, okay, then only I can give this data to that guy. That guy is going to insert the data within the database or not. So one day, okay, day before yesterday we completed this one. Okay, now this guy is waiting for whom? Waiting for my server side guy. Okay, server side guy functionality or not. Once he completed his functionality, then only I can view this data to this guy. This guy is going to insert the data in the database or not. Okay, that is the thing. So this part already completed, leave it. Okay, focus on server side. Okay, let me ask some questions. Okay, how you created this server side application, node application? How you created it? How you created this node application? Can anyone? How you created this skeleton? By using Express framework. If Express is not there in your machine, what you have to do? You should have to run as a npm install Express. Npm install Express. Next one, npm install Express generator. Done. Okay, once Express is there, how you get this skeleton? Create one folder. Create one folder. Go to that folder by using command prompt. Go to that folder by using command prompt, and then type Express. Express is a framework to generate your skeleton. Two commands are required, Express and Express generator. Okay, done. Once you get the skeleton is looks like this. The skeleton is looks like this. Okay. Within this, node modules folder is not there by default. How we can get the node modules? What it contains? How we can get the node modules? What it contains? We can get the node modules by reading the package.json. Okay, how we can read the package.json? npm install is the command. Npm install is the command. It reads the package.json dependencies or the dependencies properties. Okay, that properties is nothing but a libraries. That libraries they downloaded into your application by creating one of the folder called is a node underscore modules. Okay, now open the package.json. Okay, see these are the dependencies. These are the dependencies. Just you are going to download the dependencies. Perfect. Okay, next. The next one. Here, if you want to run your application, which file is the root file? Which file is acting like a root file? Can anyone guess? Which file is acting like a root file? My app.js. Why app.js? Why? Because in your application, how many files and how many folders are there? All files and folders registered here or not? So that it is acting like what? Root file. If you run this file, it means what? It means you run your application. So how you can run one JS file? By using node app.js. Okay, My node always runs JS file only, so that there is no need to write .js extension. There is no need to write .js extension. If you want to write, you can write it, no problem at all. Okay, see this. Node application is running in your local machine where 2020 port number. So if you want to come to your node application, what is my address? HTTP localhost 2020 is my address for what? Node application. In my node application, you return some functionality, right? Okay, you return some functionalities. What are those functionalities? Okay, like this. One is like I have one table is there. I want to perform some operation on the questions table. I have one more table is there. I want to perform some operation on this particular registration table. Okay, this table and this table, both tables you can use it. Okay, for example, think like this. npm start command also you can use it, no problem at all. npm start command also you can use it. That one is your bin folder. Okay, here one way ask the question like in the package.json there has start command is there. Okay, that start command node bin inside the bin folder www. If you go there, this is the one. Okay, here itself they are going to run your app.js only. Okay, either that one or this one you can use it, no problem at all. Okay, this file also at the time of building your application I will tell this one. See this, please take your app.js file only. This file only is going to run. Okay, express and express generator, both commands are used to get the skeleton. That's it. Okay, express is the command, express generator. Express is depending upon express generator. Both should be installed in your machine. Okay, in my machine already installed npm install express also installed, express generator also installed. Both are installed. Okay, you also express is not there. Two commands you can install, express and express generator. Okay. Okay. Now see here.
Either one is enough, or I didn't install Express Generator, but I guess it's still starting. Either one is enough, or both I need to install?
That is depending upon your node version. Okay, updated versions only one Express is enough. Okay, otherwise Express Generator. Express is not work, then the time you can go with Express Generator also.
Okay, fine. Thank you.
Yeah. Now come here. I run my application. The path is this one. So anyone knows this particular path, he can come. Okay, address you can say, not path, address you can say. You can come up to your node application or not. So my node application is this one. I can come to here. By using localhost 2020 address. But our requirement is what? I have some work with the questions table, so that if you want to perform some operation, so I need to write some piece of code in my server side application. Okay, so where you want me to write my questions related table functionality, I want to write it in the questions.js. My registration table related functionality, I want to write in the registration.js. I already told you everything you can write a single page, okay, single file, no problem at all. But I need the clean separation for that purpose. Questions table related functionality in questions.js, registration table related functionality in the registration.js. So that one only I do. So from here, you are here now. From here, I want to go to my questions.js file or not. Why? Because to save my question, okay, the function inside the questions table, questions.js file only. So that you should have to go to questions.js file. So how we can go to my questions.js file means I created one JS file here. I specify the path for this particular JS file. How I specified this JS file, I loaded inside your app.js. Why? Because my app.js is like a root file. This app.js, inside this app.js only, I used that particular questions.js with this QUE path or not. So that if you want to go to your questions.js file, the path is what? Localhost 2020 is nothing but your server. From there, you can go to this file. Inside this file, how many functionalities are there? One is for save question, another one is like get question, another one is like another function. Like this, multiple functions are there. Again, I want to call one of the function in these particular functionalities. So one function is like a save question. How we can, if you want to call this save question, again, that particular function has some path, that particular function has some request method. I already told you request method why and who decided. Who decided my request method means based on the server side functionality, based on the functionality on your table. Okay, my server side guy is going to decide the request method. For example, inside the table, we insert a new record. It's like a post request. Inside this particular table, already record is there. If you want to update, put request. Already record is there. If you want to delete, delete request. There has some records are there. If you want to get it, get request. Like this, different request methods are there based on the functionality you can use it. So here, if you want to write a functionality, what things are required? Function is required. That function path is required. That function request method is required. So that now those things where you want me write in the questions.js. So that in the questions.js, I did the same thing. See, the questions.js, if you observe, see, this is my request method. This is my request method. Okay. That method, request method, we use it for what? Okay, to insert the data, for example, to insert the data within the table. So you have to write some functionality. For that, one function is required. So this is my function. And that particular function, if you want to call, the address is this one. See, three things covered or not. Your request method covered, URL covered, or path covered, or address covered, and this is your function. Three things covered or not. The syntax is like this. Okay, syntax is what? My post is the method based on your requirement, which method you want to get method, post method like this. Post is the method, which take how many arguments? 2 arguments. One is your URL, one is your URL, the next one is like your function or not. Next one is your function. Got it or not? Okay. Where you want me to write this particular endpoints and everything means express. First of all, get that express. Okay. This is my library. If you want to import it, you can import. This is like ES6 below import. First, get that express. Inside the express, there has one router method is there. By using this router only, we are going to, okay, don't think like it's a method. So the router method returns me one router object. Inside the method, your request methods and your path and your functionality related function you can declare. Done. Okay. Now, if you want to call this particular function, here you are going to write a functionality, right? If you want to call this particular function, what is your full-fledged address? If you want to call this particular function, what is my full-fledged address? You should have to come to your node application, and then you should have to come to this file, and then you should have to come to this function or not. It's nothing but this is my function path. This function is inside your questions.js. So that this is my questions.js path. This questions.js is inside your node application. This is your node application running address or not. So finally, the URL is what? Localhost 2020 is nothing but your node server. From there, your file. From there, your functionality or not. What is my functionality? Save question is my functionality. That's it. This is my URL or not. My URL. What is my request method for this particular URL? The request method for this particular URL is what? Post is my request method or not. How you decided? Already I declared like post. How you decided? My requirement is I inserted a new question in my database so that it's like what? It's like a post request or not. It's like a post request or that. Appear okay. So far we discussed these things in last class. Any questions so far? Any questions? Okay then. Now this is my client and this one is my server. So who can communicate with server? My client. If you want to communicate with server, for one functionality, what my client is required. Okay, how my client is going to communicate with the server by using AJAX statement. To send a AJAX request. Okay, client is communicating with the server is nothing but request. Server is communicating with the client is nothing but response. Okay, now my question is, if you want to send a request to the server, what things are required? How my client requested something to my server. Okay, if my client has some idea, okay, my goal is like, my functionality is like, okay, I want to save this particular question. Okay, that is my functionality. Then the time, which function you want me to hit? Save question or get questions or register student or delete student, which question you want me to hit? I should have to hit my save question or not. So save question created by my server side guy My client side guy don't know about that particular path. So that if my path don't know by the client side person, how he is going to send the request to the server. So that my server side guy should share this URL with my client or not. Then only my client is going to send the request to this particular address or not. Then only my client is going to send a request to this particular URL or not. Okay, by using which method? By using one of the request method or not. So my server has to share. My server has to share what? My server has to server side guide has to share URL comma request method to my client or not to my client. Once this URL and request method shared by the client, okay, shared to my client, not by the client, shared to my client by the server side guy. Now what my client is going to do? My client, by using URL comma request method, okay, he send one Ajax request or not. He will send one Ajax request or not. Yes or no? He send one Ajax request or not. Once he send the Ajax request, this guy is going to processing the request and give the response back or not. Now the thing is, inside this method, what functionality you want me to write? Here, what functionality you want me to write? Here, first, this method executed is nothing but what? This method executed is nothing but what? This method executed is nothing but, yes, my request received or not. My request received. You can confirm like that. Okay. Here, see, my client send the request. If my client send the request, my server side guy has to receive the request or not. Receive the request or not. So that my first point, how it's completed means this particular function executed is nothing but, yes, my request received. Once my request received, what is the next step? Okay, once my request received is nothing but function executed, you have to start your functionality. What is your functionality? Take data from request. Okay, here if you observe, if you want to take the data from the request, first of all, request is required here or not. If the request is not there, how you take that data? How you take the data? So that my post method, take how many arguments? By seeing this one, can anyone guess? My post method take how many arguments? My post method take 2 arguments. One is like string, another one is like function. Any function pass like a argument to another function, that function we can say like what? Callback function or not. So this callback function called by whom? Post. While calling this callback method, my post method pass some arguments. What you know? The first one is like request. Okay, request argument is going to pass. See, my client send the request. That request should be available, right? So that whatever the request is sent, that request is available like a first argument. You can put like O, no problem at all. O is pointing to request. You put like A is a request. B is a request. First argument is a request. Naming convention purpose, you can put like array request. Okay, you have to take the data from the request. Okay, that is my first one. Next, once you taken the data, that data you have inserted in the DB or not. So you have to establish the connection or not. Connection with the DB. Once you establish the connection with the DB, okay, and then perform required operation. Once my operation is completed, and then what you have to do? Once my operation is completed, and then what we have to do? You should have to give that response back to client or not. Send response back to client or not. If you want to send the response back to client, okay, how we can send that result means by using response object. So res is my response object. Okay, this is your request object to take the data from this request. If you want to send it by using response object, you can send the result back. By using response, you can send the result back. So that my callback function takes how many arguments? Max 3 arguments. For now, just concentrate on these 2. Next argument is like next is there. Okay, we'll see that one later. One is like request, another one is like response. Okay, understand or not? Okay. Now, router dot get method. Get method take how many arguments? Can anyone guess? Get method take how many arguments? Get method take how many arguments? Okay. In this case, just okay. My get method take like two arguments. Okay. One is like get the question. Another one is like function. Two arguments or not. For now, two arguments or not. Okay, first argument type is what? String. Second argument type is what? A function. One function you pass as an argument is nothing but what? It's a callback. This is called by whom? Get. While calling this method, my get method pass how many arguments? Two arguments. What are those? Request, comma, response, comma, next. Next is not required for now. Just leave it. Okay, if you want, you can keep it for our practice purpose. Request, response, and next. Here, okay. Super good. Okay. Yeah. Okay. This particular endpoint is working or not, I want to test it. This particular endpoint, what we can say like endpoint or API call, okay, different names we can call it. This particular endpoint is working or not, I want to test it. So how we can test? Means just you can do one thing. If you want to hit this particular function, in this function only you return your logic and everything, right? Functionality, right? If you want to hit this particular function, you should have to send the request to this URL or not. Okay, what is my full-fledged URL? This is URL, this URL inside questions.js. This questions.js inside my application. So that full-fledged URL is what? My full-fledged URL is what? HTTP. Okay, localhost 2020. The question is my file, and my URL is what? And my URL is get question or not. This is my request URL. Okay, what is my method? Get is my method. Get is my method. So if you have the URL and the method, you can send the request to the server or not. If anybody send the request to this particular URL, this method is going to execute. Can we send the response? First 4 points, just leave it. Okay, first 4 points we can think later. Okay, this is my 4 points, right? Okay, keep here. Okay, take the data and everything like it. Last point is that, right? Send the response back to client. Okay, send it. Response dot send is the method. Okay, success. Okay, otherwise get the questions and point. God, this is the one. Okay, anybody hit this particular URL? Anybody hit this particular URL? Your response is like what? Your response is this one or not? Can you check it? Okay, if I check this one, see, URL is nothing but you can access through browser or not? Yeah, you can access through browser. Click on this one. Okay, see this? You are not getting any output, nothing. Why? You know, you made some changes, right? You made some changes. My server not restarted. Okay, not restarted. If you made any changes, my server has to restart. Okay, see, I restored my server. Now, if I refresh my page, yeah, get questions endpoint called or not. This is my response or not. If you send the request for this particular URL by using get method, this is the response you got it or not. Yes or no? If you made any changes here, okay, any changes here, what we have to do? Okay, that changes by default not reflected here. So what we have to do? Again, you have to restart your server or not. Every time if you restart stop your server, start like this, it kills your development time or not. So that we have another way is there. To start your server. Okay, how you know? Okay, that is like, so far you start your application by using node command, right? We have one more command is there. Nodemon is the command. Okay, by default my node is available. How? My node is a software. Okay, just you install the node software, then node is available. Nodemon, how we can get it? Nodemon. Okay, Nodemon is not a software. Okay, by using node only we can install Nodemon. How you know that? npm install -g, npm install -g, nodemon is the command. Nodemon. Okay, my nodemon, what he is going to do? See here. Okay, if I save it, see, restart due to the changes, starting your application node app.js. Finally, he is running this one only, but the thing is, the new changes, the changes what you made, the changes is going to push into your server or not. Okay, for example, if I remove this one, okay, now see this here. If I send, this is my response. I removed this DDD. If I save this one, see, yeah, restarting due to the changes. Okay, again, once the changes are pushed in your browser, pushed in your server, again, he is going to start your node app.js only or not. Now, if you click on this one, so there is no need to restart your server each and every time. So now onwards, if you want to run your node application, instead of node app.js, you can use like nodemon app.js. You can use it now onwards. Okay, by default, nodemon is not available. So how we can make it available? npm install -g nodemon. npm install -g nodemon. Okay, understand or not? Okay then. Okay, here also, this is also one more request, right? So can we send the response? My response dot send off. Okay, which one? This is save questions endpoint call. Save questions endpoint call. Okay. Now can anyone tell this particular URL or full-fledged URL? Localhost 2020 question. Okay, get question on, this is the one. Now if I click on this one, see, localhost 2020 is there, question also there, save question also there, right? Question and save question, this is the URL, right? This is the URL. Okay, if I write like a get question, localhost 2020 question and get question. Okay, this is the one. Okay, see this. Get question is working. My save question is not working. Save question is not working. Why? Can anyone guess? What is the difference between save question endpoint URL and get question endpoint URL? What difference you found here? Okay, here my get question is like a get request. Here it's like a post request. In your browser, if you open any URL, by default that is a get request. How you know that one? You set like default get. How you know that one? But default is like a get request. How you know that one? Very simple. Right click on that one, inspect it. Right click on that one, inspect it. If you see here, multiple tabs are there. Okay, so far how many tabs you know? How many tabs you know? Elements tab. Can anyone tell one word answer? Okay, one sentence about elements tab. Whatever the data loaded inside the browser, that data related code we can find in the elements tab or not. Okay, the elements tab contains all your HTML elements, as well as in the right side you can find the CSS console. To log your messages we can use like a console, as well as my console is simply working like a JavaScript working environment or not. You can execute any JavaScript code or not. What about the source? At the time of loading this particular URL, how many files and folders are going to load? That files and folders, everything is going to load here or not? Everything is going to load here or not? Files and folders. At the same time, you can use for working purpose. Application contains what? Your storages, local storage is there, session storage is there, all your storages are available here or not? Cookies are there. The next tab is like network tab. The network tab, why we use, you know, the network tab, inside the network tab, you requested something to one file. Okay, that file gives the response, whatever the request is. Okay, that related request and response. Okay, you requested something and you are getting some response. That particular request and response registered in this particular network tab. Understand or not? Okay, simple. Take lists and keys is there. Okay, now my browser requested to this particular URL to get this response or not. Can we inspect it? Can you go to my network? Can I refresh my page? If you observe here, see, I requested something to this particular URL or not? Requested URL. I get this response or not? Yes, I get this response or not? everything, whatever you requested, okay, whatever you get the response for this particular request, okay, everything is going to register within the network tab. See here, you requested something where something react.development.js file to load this one. I requested something to this particular file to load this file or not, so that this file is going to loaded here or not. Same like Babel also. I requested something to my Babel, okay, that one is loaded or not. See, these all are like where, okay, these all I requested in my client side only or not. Yes or no? These requests HTML. Okay, see here, lists and keys.html. I requested my own file. I requested to my own file. I requested to the JS file. I requested to the JS file. Now, in this case, I requested to my server URL or not. You requested to your file, okay, that is inside your folder or somewhere, or you requested something out of your file, is nothing but out of your mission, is nothing but a server, okay, which is running in another server. Okay, this is like a client one, and that one is like a server. Somewhere you're asking, okay, the person who what you needed something, okay, that guy is out of your mission sometimes, okay, that is running in another server, okay, that time also you requested something to some other person or not, that is also here is going to be registered. Now if you come here, okay, this is the one, save question, get question. Now see, if I click on this one, see that requested URL is this one or not. In the past, if you observe the request URL, I requested to my HTML file or JS file. Okay, if I requested something to my HTML file, this is my response. If I requested something to this particular URL, my response is this one or not. My response is this one or not. In this case, my request go to where? Go to my node server. Node server or not. In this case, my request go to where? My request go to this particular file or not. Agreed or not. Each and every request and responses, okay, registered where? In my network tab or not. You requested something, okay, you are getting something for this particular request. Those requests and response is going to log where? Inside your network tab. Okay, the request may be for your HTML file, for your JS file, for your node endpoint, whatever it is, node endpoint, whatever it is, everything registered where? Inside my network tab only or not. Agreed about the network tab? Got some idea? Understand or not? Okay, okay or not? Okay, I'll show that one. That is not registered, right? At this point of time, it's not registered. Okay, at the time of binding this particular one or by using an Ajax, then I will show you. Okay, done. Now you get this response. Here, I'm going to put like save question. Save question. Now see, if it is like HTTP localhost 2020 question get question, if you run here in the browser, my request method by default what get. Okay, perfect. Now clear this one, clear this one. Now I am going to request it to my save question. Now see that it is my save question. HTTP localhost 2020 question save. My request method is what? Get. Why you know? By default in your browser, if you requested, that means in your browser, if you open any URL, okay, that URL requested, okay, that means my browser requested to this URL by using get method only. Okay, my browser requested to this URL by using which method? Get method. Okay, that is the default behavior to my browser. In my browser, if you open any URL, my browser requested something to that particular URL by using which method? By using get method or not? By using get method. But localhost 2020 question save question. Localhost 2020 question save question. Is it a get method or is it post method? It's a post method. Okay, now my get method is not there. So if any resource is not there, any file is not there, okay, then that time you can get like an error. Okay, then that time you can get like a status code like 404. 404 is nothing but not found. If you come here itself, okay, you requested something. You requested something like this. You requested something like this. For example, here Babel is not there. Babel is not there. Then you can get like a 404 only. Okay, for example, this is my Babel, right? This is my Babel, right? Okay, just I'm going to put like Babel mean one. Okay, now Babel is not there. Now if I refresh my page, then the time, yeah, my Babel failed or not. My Babel failed or not. Go to my console. If you observe here, it's not found or not. This is the one. File not found or not. Here also not found or not. Understand or not? Okay, go to my network, which you observe here. Okay, my response is like fail to load the response data. Okay, like this you can get it. Okay, can we make it as like okay, now any resource is not there. Resource is nothing but that particular URL. If that particular method is not there, then the time then what is my output? My output is like what? My output is like 404 or not. Okay, now I'm not able to test this one through browser. Then how we can test it? This URL is a post method. I can test the URLs with the get method only inside the browser. Okay, then how we can test the post method, put method, delete method, remaining all? How we can test it? I have the URLs. I want to test it as a server side guy. Once my coding is completed, I have to test it or not. Then how we can test it? Means there have some other tools are there. One of the tool called as advanced REST client. Another one is like a Postman. Advanced REST client is the tool. See here, this is my advanced REST client. Okay, simply you can go to the Google. Go to the Google. Okay, here you can write like advanced REST client. Advanced REST client. It's a Google Chrome app. Okay, just you can click on this. Click on this. You can install it. Already I installed, so that it's like Launchar. Okay, if you not install, here the button is like install. Okay, just click on the Launchar. Click on the Launchar. Now see, it looks like this. Now you can test any type of request method here. Get, post, put. Post method. What is my request URL? My request URL is this one. Okay, so that this is my requested URL. Now send the request. Yeah, save question, endpoint called or not. This is my response or not. Like this, you can test any type of endpoint URLs by using advanced REST client. This is the app. Another one is like Postman is there. That is a software you can install. Postman. Postman. Advanced REST client. I'm texting in your chart window. Okay, another one is like Postman. Postman. Postman is a software just you can install it. Okay, now this is my Postman. Okay, now here also same panel. See which type of request you want me to test. Post. Okay, what is my URL? This is my URL. Can I click on send? Yeah, save endpoint called or not? If you made some changes here, okay, save endpoint, okay, save question only. Okay, this is my one. Now if I click on the send, yes, it's reflected or not. In the advanced REST client, if you want to check, yes, send it. Yeah, it's reflected or not. Like this, you can test it. Either by using what? Advanced REST client. It's a Google Chrome browser app. Okay, you can download it. Okay, you can install it. Okay, another one is like Postman. It's a software, just you can install it. Okay, by using this one, as a server side guy, whatever you return that endpoints I want to test it. Through browser, which type of endpoints you can test? The endpoints which is having the request method called as a get. Those endpoints only we can test it. Okay, remaining we can't. Up to here, understand or not? Up to here, understand or not? See, I'm the server side guy now. Okay, I'm not a client side developer. I am working on server side application. So far. Okay, now we can think about this, take data from request, establish the connection, and everything we can think of. Okay, but this is my request URL. Okay, this is my request URL. If anybody hit this URL, this is my response. So that who want to send the request to this particular URL? Who want to send the request to this particular URL? Can anyone guess? Who want to send the request to this particular URL? Who want to send the request to the particular URL? My client or not? So that from my client, you should have to send the request to this particular URL or not. So that inside my client can be. Now you are the client side developer. You are the client side developer. Can you go to my e2e.js? Okay, at the time of clicking on this particular button, at the time of clicking on this particular send button or submit button, okay, this method is going to execute it. Which method? This method is going to execute it. Okay, whenever this method, okay, you click on the button, okay, that is at the time of clicking on the button, one method is going to execute. That method has to connect with what? Connect with my server or not? Okay, now tell me how my client is going to connect with the server. How my client is going to connect with the server? By using Ajax or not? By using Ajax. If you want to send an Ajax request, what inputs are required? URL and method. These two inputs are required or not? These two inputs prepared by whom? The use two inputs prepared by my server side guy or not? This one and this one. These two inputs you have to share with whom? Client side person or not, as a server side guy. If my client side person has this URL and method, now my client side person can send the request to the server or not? By using what? By using some Ajax techniques or not? What are those Ajax techniques? Means one is like there has four texts we are going to discuss, and one is like HTML, XML, HTTP request, and another one is like fetch. These two we will discuss. So that can we go with XML, HTTP request. Okay, let's start. It's a simple JavaScript method, JavaScript class, not method. Okay, anything starts with capital letter. The function, anything starts with capital letter. Okay, that one we can say like what? Class. Why? Because in JavaScript, how many types of classes are there? Functional classes as well as the next one is what? Functional classes as well as class keyword classes. So it's like a functional class. If it is like a class, what we can do with the class? Okay, if you want to get the services from the class, you should have to create an object for this particular class or not. So you can create an object. Yes. Okay, give proper name. You are sending HTTP request, right? HTTP object. While sending the request also, there has multiple, okay, different stages are there. The first stage is what? If you want to send the request, first of all, request is required, right? That means you have to prepare the request or not. Prepare the request. Prepare the request is nothing but to whom you want me to send the request to this particular URL by using this method. The next one, once you prepare the request, what you have to do? Send the request to the server or not. Send the request. Once you send the request to the server, come to my server now. Come to my server side code. Once you send the request to server, this particular method is going to trigger. Think about what? Receive the request. If you use this particular endpoint URL, okay, this method is going to execute. This method is going to execute. That means my request received. Once my request received, you take the data from the request, establish the connection with the DB, perform required operation, and finally you send the response back or not. Once you send the response back, then the time my client has to, okay, send the request. Okay, here he has to receive the response or not. He has to receive the response or not. Send the request. The next one is like process the request. Who can process? My server side guy is going to process the request or not. My server side guy is going to process the request or not. Once my server side guy is going to process the request, okay, he send the response back. You should have to receive the response or not. Do you think always my response is like a success? No, sometimes it's like a success. Okay, sometimes my response is like a failure also or not. These are the stages. Okay, in my React library, there is no predefined Ajax technique related stuff in my React library. My React library is not having anything to handle Ajax. Okay, you should have to use some third-party libraries only. Either JavaScript library you can use, jQuery you can use, or Angular you can use. Any one of these one you can use. My React is not support, not like Angular. My Angular has HTTP client, one class is there, one module is there. Okay, perfect. You create an object for this particular one. It's a pure JavaScript one. You have to prepare the request. If you want to prepare the request by using what? URL and method. If you want to prepare the request, in your object, there has one method is there. Open is the method. Open. It's take, see here, method and URL as an arguments. What is the method? What is the method? If you want to save the data, which method? Post is the method. What is the URL? This is my URL or not? This is my URL. Yes. This is my URL. Okay, you prepare the request. Done. Once your request preparation is done, what we have to do? You have to send the request or not. HTTP object dot send is the method. Send the request. Once you send the request, okay, the request go to your where? Go to your server. That guy is going to do all these required operations or not. Okay, receive the request and take the data, connection, required perform operation, and send the response. Once he send the response back, my client is going to receive the response or not. Receive the response. My response may be what? Success. How you know that one? Do you think, okay, it's like always success, or do you think it's like always failure? When it is like success, when it is like failure, you don't know that one. Then that time, Okay, they provide you some fallback methods. Okay, one of the fallback method is like a HTTP object dot on load is the fallback method. This fallback method is going to trigger when whenever my response is like a success. Okay, if it is like a failure, then the time we have one more callback method is there. On error is the callback method. It's inside HTTP object only. Okay, when this is going to trigger means whenever my response is like a failure. Okay, if it's a success, then the time you have to get the response or not. So how we can get the response means my response equals to HTTP object dot response text. Response text. That's it. This is a simple code. Okay, to handle the AJAX. See, prepare the request by using method and URL. You send the request. My request processed by the server side guy. So that what my server side guy is going to do, whatever the request sent, he receive the request and take the data from the request, establish the connection and perform required operation and send the response back. Once my response back to my client, my response may be a success, may be a failure. If it is a success, that one is handled by on callback method. If it is like a failure, that one is handled by on error callback method. That's it. Okay, can we check it? Okay, from here. Now see, I'm not concentrating on this data or something. Okay, level one by one, we are going to add this. If I click on the submit button, see here, on error method trigger, on error. One request go to the server where we can test in the network tab. In the network tab, if you observe here, save question. Okay, my request go to this particular one, you get like one like cross origin error came. Cross origin. Okay, what is this cross origin? It's like a one of the topic in JavaScript is like a pre-flight request. Pre-flight request. What is this pre-flight request? I will tell. Okay, for now, okay, just do one thing. Okay, otherwise now itself I can say. Open Paint. Already this is the one, right? Control S. By no. Okay, this is my server. This is my server. Okay, where my server is running? Can anyone guess? My server side code is running where? HTTP. Okay, localhost 2020. This is my server side. Inside this, how many files are there? How many functions are there? That is the next level. Okay, leave it. This is my server side code, and it is running on localhost 2020 port number. Now, can anyone tell who can communicate with the server? Who can communicate with the server? My client. Okay, my browser is acting like a client, right? Okay, so that this is one browser. This is another person open another browser. Another person open another browser. Like this, any number of browsers we can open or not. Any number of browsers we can open, we can send the request to the servers or not. We can send the request to the server, not server. My server is one. My clients are like multiple or not. See here, my server node is like one only. I opened one more browser. If I open this particular application, is nothing but what? One more client that is. Now, HTTP localhost 2020. Perfect. Now my client here, my client application also running, right? Where it is running? HTTP localhost where? 3000 is the port. Okay, this is one client. For example, think another client. Okay, another client is nothing but just open the browser, open one URL. Okay, that is your client running both or not. UIJavaKit.com, for example. Another client is there. Another client is this one. Another client is there. Okay. If you observe here, see my server side code. This is my server side code. My server side code is running on localhost 2020. That server side code hit by different clients who are running in different port numbers and different servers or not. This is running within the same server, okay, the local host only with different port number. Here, the server itself different. UIJavaKit.com is like another domain. Server itself is different. Here, within the same server with different port number or not, with different port number. Here, my port number and my server or a local host both are like same or not. Okay, here, in this case, my client and server both are running within the same server and port number or not, localhost 2020 or not. Okay, here my port number is different. Here my domain name is different. Here my port number is different. Generally, what happened, my server side code is running in one server, in one port number. My client is going to hit that particular server with different domain name or different port number. Then that time, my browser simply stop your request. It's not allow. My browser itself not allow the request to the server. Okay, not allow to hit that request to the server. Okay, here what my browser is going to do. My client is running localhost 3000. Yes, this is the localhost 3000. Okay, this guy is trying to hit what? This guy is going to trying to hit this particular URL or not? Trying to hit this particular URL. Which URL? Localhost 2020. My server is running on localhost 2020. Now my browser checks. My client is running on localhost 3000. He is requested for localhost 2020. Okay, so that both are like different port numbers. So that I should not directly allow him. I should not directly allow this request to my server. I should not hit this particular request directly to my server. Like this, my browser thing. Okay, my browser stop your request here. What my browser extra thing, what he did, my browser asked to my server now, hey, one of the person, okay, that guy is coming from localhost 3000. He want to communicate with you. He want to communicate with you. Okay, do you want me to allow like this? My browser asked to my server side guy. Okay, this is nothing but what my browser is a client. My server is okay, this is my node is like a server. My client and my server communication is happen through request only, but it is not a original request. We say like a pre-flight request. Pre-flight request is a dummy request. Okay, one pre-flight request sent to my server, okay, for confirmation. Hey, somebody requested something, okay, out of your server, out of your port number. Okay, different guy. That guy is not belongs to you. Do you want me to allow? Like this? My browser is going to ask, my browser is going to send one pre-flight request. For that pre-flight request, my server side guy is going to send a response. If my server side guy, hey, okay, no problem, I'm ready to accept. Okay, anybody coming from anywhere, I can handle them. Okay, like this, he said like either true or false, allow or deny. Okay, so that he said like maybe yes, maybe no, maybe no. He said like no, then that time, okay, this error you can get it. Okay, see, access XML request HTTP localhost 2020 from origin. Okay, this is what you requested to this particular one from this particular localhost 3000 or not has been blocked by PORS policy. Okay, no access control header is present in the request resource. Like this, you can get it. Like this, you can get the error. If he said like no, if he said like yes, hey, I'm ready to accept, then that time, this is your original request. He stopped, right? This is your original request, right? Now this original request, he allow him to send to my server. Original request allow him to send to my server. Understand what my browser is going to do? Okay, my browser, when it's going to stop your request, my request who send to my server, that guy is like a different port number or different domain. If you send the request from uijavakit.com, this was blocked or not? This was obviously blocked. Why? Because this is like completely different domain. This is like completely different domain. Here at least for the local host, both are running in the local host, but port number also different. Port number is different also, my browser is going to stop. Here my domain only different, right? Then the time obviously my browser is going to stop and he's going to send what? One pre-flight request. If my pre-flight request is like yes, then that time, yeah, he is going to allow him. If my pre-flight request is like no, he gives me like false error. If it is like yes, then the time my original request go to my server or not. Okay, here localhost 2020 also same, but here, see, here what? My server also running localhost 2020. My client also running on localhost 2020. Then the time my browser not stop your request directly. You can hit this particular URL. I can get the response back to client. That's it. Okay, this is like a pre-flight request. Understand? My pre-flight request, my browser is going to send. It's a dummy request with which request method? You know, options is my request method. Options, not get, put, post, delete. Options is the request method. Options is my request method. Now tell me, different clients are trying to hit this particular server. So my server should be handle the request or not, so that my server in the position to handle the request. The request may be coming from different port number or different domain name or different same domain name, same port number. It's not a matter. My server should be in the position to handle any type of request or not. Like that, you should have to handle. Okay, like this, you should have to write the code in the server side or not. In the server side, like that, you have to write the code or not. So how we can handle the calls in the server side? Where you want me to write the code in the server side? That means where you want me to write the code to handle the cross origin issues means in the server side only way, because everyone hit the server. My server should be in the position to handle the request or not. So that my server side, you have, if you want to handle the server side, we have one library is there, simple library. Parse is the library. So that can be load that library, npm install or save. Okay, already you know that one. Already you know this command. Okay, in the React, you added the same command or not? Okay, not same command, same syntax. npm install React router DOM save. This one do two things. What are those? One is like it's downloaded the course and save within the package.json. See here, my course loaded or not? So my course loaded. Okay, which one is the application file? This is my app.js. So that can be get that course first. App my course equals to require anything coming from node modules. There is no need to put dot relative was not required. And then you can use like app.use. My course is the method. That's it. This is the syntax. Okay, done. Now my server side guy in the position to handle the request from anywhere or not. Now send the request. Now see, if I click on the submit, yes, on error is not triggered now. On error is not triggered. On load triggered is nothing but what? My request sent to my server and get the response like a success response or not. See my response text. Yeah, save QUE. This is coming from where? This is coming from my server or not. Okay, it is coming from this particular area or not. Save QUE or not. Okay, now can you change the network? Yes, see this. The network, if you observe my save questions, now see this, my request go to the server and you can get this response or not, and you can get this response or not. This is the way we are going to handle your what, your request and response by using XML HTTP request. By using XML HTTP request. Okay, our functionality not yet done. My functionality not yet done. Okay. Okay then. Remaining things will see in tomorrow class. I will upload the videos also. Okay, just you can go through that videos. Now if you come here, open with Notepad. Yeah, if you see this one, 8 onwards videos or 8, 9, 8 and 10, 8. Okay, I'll upload today's videos also. Just go through that one. Okay, you can send the XML data also. The XML data also you can send if it's like a web service call. Web service call, you can send XML data also. Or JSON data also you can send it. Okay, okay then. Thanks guys. Thanks for joining. We'll see remaining things in tomorrow's class. Bye.